Okay, the next two speakers, again, I'm going to share with you my personal affiliation, I would say, to that. So we're going to hear from Afrat Carmi and Avichai Kremer on the role of ALS community in advancing the cure and treatment for ALS. Now I'm going to share with you, Avichai is a childhood friend of mine. We were in school together for 6 years. He was one of the smartest and funniest classmates. We have great memories. Avichai currently has ALS, and he is not able to walk or talk. The only thing he's able is to use his eyelids a bit. So after Afrat is going to talk, Avichai pre-recorded his message to us. And I would like to ask you to honor and listen to what he has to share with us. Thank you. So Afrat, please, the floor is yours.
Since I have only a few minutes to talk, I didn't make a fancy presentation. I have my papers, but that means I don't have to click anything, so I'm safe here. As Ronnie said, my name is Afrat Carmi, and I'm the CEO of Israel ALS, the Israeli ALS Association, and I want to thank the organizer, and especially Ronnie, for inviting us, me and my dear friend and colleague Avichai Kremer, to be here today and talk about this very important topic, the role of a community and patient organization in advancing the path to a cure. And now I know how important it, after listening to a few of the presentations here that mentioned this role, especially the first one. He just left, so that's okay. And I think it's nice of closing this session, almost closing, when he started emphasizing the significance of the work of patient organizations. So ALS, if you don't know, is a severe, fatal, quick, and cruel disease. Within few months after being diagnosed, the person with ALS is turning from a fully active, like me and you, human being, to a full paralyzed person, as Ronnie talked about Avichai, can communicate only with eye movements and not move at all. Although ALS is known to the medical community since 1870, I'm standing here over 150 or 154 years later, and there is still no effective drug for ALS to stop the disease or to make it a chronic disease that people can live with and not die within 3 to 4 years after being diagnosed with the disease. This is the average life expectancy with ALS. Of course, there's an exceptions like Avichai, but we'll talk about him later. I've been in the organization in Israel ALS since 2007, which is now 16 or almost 17 years. So I do have a long perspective of the impact of our work on the ALS research field here in Israel. Our organization was established 19 years ago by David Cohen, who was an ALS patient, who immediately after being diagnosed understood that there was zero ALS research in Israel. And I'm talking to you about 2005 or late 2004, and there was nothing. He decided he wanted to make a change, trusting that the Israeli and Jewish bright minds can do the change. He gathered extraordinary people around him, and together they have started a journey that called Israel ALS. Looking back, in those 19 years, we completely changed the ALS field in Israel, or you can say flourished the desert. In an investment of over 15 million shekels, and we are a very small non-profit organization, we have managed to make ALS a desired research topic in Israel. Nowadays, there are at least 4 active labs in Israeli universities and at least five Israeli companies that are developing drug or therapies to ALS. Israeli researchers are well recognized and known in the international community and are involved in many global projects. During the years, we didn't give only research grants to researchers, but also invested in grooming the next generation of Israeli ALS researchers, supporting Israeli postdocs who went abroad to study in the best labs in the world, helping them to come back and open their dedicated ALS lab in Israel. The most recent example I can tell you about is Dr. Zeev Melamed, a young, talented PhD from Tel Aviv University, who spent several years now in San Diego in one of the best ALS clinics in the world for his postdoc, and came back not long ago to open an ALS lab in the Hebrew University with our support during the way and to his lab when he came. So locally, I can tell you definitely that our organization has a major impact on advancing the research and path to a cure. Globally, we can see many ALS organizations that are working towards a cure. Each one of them is pushing in its own unique way. But the impact of ALS community is huge, not only in advancing and finding the solution, but also in advocacy. As we could clearly see in recent fights of ALS community in the United States with the FDA regarding approving different newly developed therapies. One of the most impressive and memorable impacts of ALS community on advancing the cure is the famous ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. I can't see you, so I don't know if you are nodding, but as probably most of you remember, on August 2014, and this year we celebrate the 10th anniversary to this remarkable challenge, everyone around the world dumped a bucket of ice on their heads. And when I say everyone, I mean presidents, CEOs, singers, actors, TV celebs, whoever you want. This challenge, as stupid as it sounds, began with 2 ALS patients in Boston who challenged their players of their favorite baseball team. And within days, it turned into the most significant viral campaign ever, a one that is being taught and studied in communication and marketing schools till today all over the world. Within few weeks, this campaign raised over $220 million for a very rare disease and unknown disease globally. The money was mainly invested in research, and now, 10 years later, only in September, a new therapy that was developed with those, as we call them, ice money, was approved by the FDA. So I can't think of a more clear-cut example of how a community is pushing for a drug and basically changing history, because this Ice Bucket Challenge was a game changer in the history of ALS research. Another great example is the work of my friend that we mentioned before, my friend and colleague Avichai Kremer. Avichai was diagnosed with ALS 19 or 20 years ago, and when I said the life expectancy is 3 to 4 years, Avichai has definitely beat every statistics of the disease. And he has been a significant player on this field for many, many years. As I said, unfortunately, he couldn't join us physically, but sent us a video of his journey with ALS.
My name is Avichai Kremer and I am an ALS patient. Disease has left me completely paralyzed and unable to speak. Communicate by typing on a computer using eye movements. This is how I type this text. This talk I would like to tell you about my small part in advancing the search for treatments and a cure for my illness. You will see, the community, and determined patients, can really make a difference. Journey began 20 years ago when I received a life-altering diagnosis of ALS while pursuing my MBA at Harvard Business School. Instead of succumbing to despair, I ignited a relentless commitment to advance ALS research on a global scale. 2004, when I was diagnosed with ALS, there was close to nothing to offer patients in terms of treatment. Only one treatment that lengthened the patient's life by 2 months existed. Worse than that, there was very little academic research, maybe 5 laboratories in the whole world, most of them in the United States and none in Israel. Usually when a physician diagnoses a patient with a terminal disease, he suggests that the patient participates in a clinical trial, that is, take an experimental drug. In that case, there was no clinical trial to participate in, and there was no pharmaceutical company working on the disease. Sometimes, the only thing a physician could say to an ALS patient was make a will. The situation is completely different. Though there is still no effective treatment, there is a lot of research, hundreds of laboratories around the world, at least 5 in Israel, and dozens of pharmaceutical companies developing treatments for ALS, including the largest companies in the world, 6 Israeli, Brainstorm, Katamastam, Neurosense, Prilenia, Immunity Pharma, and Neuromagan. There are currently 827 clinical trials in ALS according to the clinicaltrials.gov website, and over $300 million are allocated for research every year in the United States alone. Momentum can't be stopped anymore, and I expect that it will only accelerate. In my opinion, in the next 2 years, there will be another 2 treatments for ALS. The importance of each additional therapy is significant. First of all, a combination of therapies, even those that have a small effect, can have multiplying power which can lead to a large effect. That's what happened with multiple sclerosis at the beginning of the journey. Secondly, each therapy approved by the FDA causes more investors, venture capital funds and pharmaceutical companies to enter the field. But change is a significant change that did not happen in a day. It happened gradually, step by step, led by committed patients and nonprofits. Contribution can be divided into 2 parts, in Israel and abroad. Israel I operated within the framework of the nonprofit ISRALS, which was founded by an ALS patient called David Cohen. Thus at the time there was no ALS research in the country. My strategy was to approach laboratories that studied common neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis. Searched all the universities in the country, met with all the interested researchers, and promised them research grants, which I didn't have yet, if they would do some research for ALS. At the same time, I did everything possible to raise money for research, and interviewed to all media outlets in order to raise awareness of the illness. While the disease in my body progressed, I began to limp, my hands became weaker, and my speech became slurry and less understandable. However, within half a year we already had 10 researches and enough money to fund them. Others we funded then the research grants that were the basis of the company's Brainstorm and Immunity Pharma, so what I sowed almost 20 years ago, we are reaping now. Another success was that after meeting me, Dov Lackman, who until then kept his ALS disease secret, went public and joined the fight. And another patient, Nir Soren, continued and expanded my work in Israel, while I moved my focus abroad. 2006, in Boston, I founded and led Prize for Life, a nonprofit aimed at finding new ideas, new people, and new solutions for the ALS disease. Though our big prizes attracted new ideas and new people to the field, in terms of results they did not create a significant change. Instead, the true global impact of Prize for Life lay in its innovative programs, strategically aimed at dismantling the most formidable barriers confronting ALS researchers and pharmaceutical companies worldwide. These programs were dedicated to the discovery of biomarkers, predictive animal models, and the reduction of costs associated with ALS clinical trials. A shining example of Prize for Life's visionary leadership was the creation of PROACT, an unparalleled repository of clinical records from ALS patients, unparalleled in its worldwide reach. 2010, long before big data became a buzzword, we conceptualized and masterminded a freely accessible database, consolidating invaluable data from past clinical trials. A collaborative achievement between Prize for Life, the NEALS Consortium, and the Neurological Clinical Research Institute, NCRI, at Massachusetts General Hospital, now stands as the most extensive ALS clinical trials dataset. Over 11,600 identified patient records, it serves as an open resource for the global scientific community, facilitating collaborative efforts to advance treatment options and ultimately find a cure. However, my involvement extended beyond data-driven initiatives. Avichai, a company I founded and chaired, we made significant strides in commercializing ALS treatments. Avichai provided vital initial funding to Amylyx Pharmaceuticals, not only kickstarting their ALS treatment development but also instilling them with the credibility needed to secure subsequent funding. By facing complete paralysis and loss of speech, I consistently lend my voice to vital discussions. Actively participate in panels, drawing upon my personal experience living with ALS to address the everyday challenges patients encounter. Additionally, I serve as a consultant to the ALS Association and volunteer in ISR-ALS, the Israeli ALS Foundation. I helped initiate an ambitious project aimed at mapping the genomes of all ALS patients in Israel, furthering our understanding of this complex disease. Thank you for listening.
I want to thank Avichai because watching a video of 8 minutes, you can only imagine how long it took him with his eyes to write such a long speech. So I will deliver the thanks to him too.
Thank you so much, Afrat.